Hey, everybody, I am Tommy, and you are on the lifeboat. What's happening, folks? Check it out. I got Casper with me. We are today going to be talking about the superseding indictments that have come up in the Diddy case. It's a little bit confusing, so stick around. We're going to say hello, and then we're going to get to it. How you doing, Casper?
I'm doing pretty good. Just took my daughter to go look for a Taylor Swift shirt, and there is not one in the whole town of Billings.
Why does that not surprise me?
Yeah.
Well, she's pretty popular.
Yeah, they're doing a Super Bowl day tomorrow at her school. So it's either the boys are wearing Travis Kelce, the girls are wearing Taylor Swift. I don't know. It sounds so. Anyway, so guess who's drawing a Taylor Swift shirt tonight?
I was about to say, if there's anybody on earth that could do a Taylor Swift shirt, it's you. No problem at all.
Yeah.
Corn Pope. I think that's classic, though. What a dad. Kim is blue. Yeah. Lynn Sanity. James Collins cares. Good to see you. Nicole, how are you, Nicole? Caroline in Canada. Good to see you. Lacey Silver. Gamer Jackie's here. Kathy in Carnosol. Lady Shishi. How are you, Lady Shishi? You were right. Yes. Yeah, I was, but I wasn't. And I'll tell you about that because I'm all about saying, yeah, I'm right, but this time I'm not exactly right. Brittany Berry, good to see you. Hello, Charlie Murphy, CKM, Barbara Aldrich, Annika's mom, I'm saying it wrong. Sir Tedrick, Claire, Ann, how are you? Lisa Trimble, good to see you. There's Diana and Legal News. All right. Inspire to inspire. Hey, Priska, how are you, Priska? Good to have you here. Donna Ma, good to have you here. So let's fire this thing up a little bit. Tippy Tip, glad you're here. Joanne Ventrella, glad you are here. Teresa Hayes is here. Hey, Cricket, good to see you, Cricket. So let's fire this thing up and take it out a bit, shall we? Let's, first of all, let me tell you how this has gone and what I predicted and why I'm wrong. The superseding indictments that I anticipated coming down, I kind of thought that we were actually going to see superseding indictments. This isn't exactly a superseding indictment, even though they call it one. What they have done is there are two more. Here, you know what? I'm not doing that thing. There are two more individuals on here. Now, they are all women. We have a Jane Doe 1, a Jane Doe 2, and a Jane Doe 3. One of them we can all assume is Cassie Ventura. What they have done is moved the date back some. We were talking about 2008. We are not talking about 2008 anymore. Now we are talking about 2004. So we're looking at in excess of 20 years that this has been going on. That is a disturbing trend. Now, I had said that I thought they might try to keep the powder dry and wait and see whether or not the prosecution thought they were ready to go on Cinco de Mayo. And if they were, then they could take the case that they already have and go with it. If they weren't, then they could drop superseding indictments, which would push the case considerably further away than Cinco de Mayo. But they didn't do that. By not adding any new superseding indictments, by not adding any new charges, because they have not put new charges on this. What they have done is give us a lot more detail about some of the details. They have not charged new crimes. If they did charge a bunch of new crimes, they would absolutely have to push off the court date. It is looking as if they're going to be able to keep to the Cinco de Mayo date. Now, I would be willing to bet that they probably still have a couple of superseding indictments that if they need to pull out, they can. Hello, Quibs. Good to see you. Hey, my girlfriend's here. She'll be my fiance. We are enfianced. Enfianced. We're together. We're planning on getting married, you know. The Christy Wolf, good to see you. I believe, she says, hey, Tommy, there's possible 2 more superseding indictments coming, plus Enterprise letter. Diddy's docket says not over. No, this is definitely not over. And there are definitely other superseding indictments, and they're, I think, keeping the powder dry. And I think that the reason they're doing that, maybe I'm wrong, but here's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. My theory is that they feel pretty good about Cinco de Mayo. Now, up until this point, people have said, how is it that there's only going to be one victim in this? If he did this to that many people, the prosecution's biggest fear is that they're going to put, let's say they put 5, 10, 25 victims. The defense only needs to shred a couple. All they need to do is get one or two people that they can poke a bunch of holes in, and they're going to start trying to do the narrative of all of this was BS, all of these things. So normally in situations like this, the prosecution will pick 2 or 3 people that they believe are bulletproof. They believe that they can put on the stand. Now, I believe one of these individuals will be the person that he held off of the balcony. I don't know if you've heard that story before, but he threatened a friend of Cassie Ventura's and hung her off of, I think, a 17th story, whatever it was way the hell up there, and held her over the edge, threatening her. I do believe, yeah, they don't want the defense to know everything, says Kirsty Wolf, and she's right. And they don't need to. What they have done is they have made the case that they have more solid. And I will read the indictment to you guys, or one of us will read the indictment to you guys. But to give you an idea, to a little bit of a paraphrase here of what you're actually going to be hearing, you're going to be hearing them dial up some conversation about this guy being a drug dealer. Allegedly, this guy and his crew were doing a lot of drug dealing. And they mention alprazolam, which is Xanax. They mention OxyContin, which would probably be the Perk 30s. And that would check out because we have had victims allegedly go to the doctor and test positive for xylazine. That is a horse tranquilizer. Most of the Perk 30s that are on the streets today in the United States are fake, and most are what is called trank. And that is a mixture of a very strong man-made opioid mixed with a horse tranquilizer, an equine or bovine tranquilizer. Everything you need to knock out a cow if you're trying to go out on a Friday night. Very, very serious substances and very serious charges. I'm blown away at this. This is the one to me that I find shocking. The fact that these people at the echelon that they're at are dealing illegal substances, and they're talking about possession with the intent to distribute. They're not talking about having this stuff. They're talking about selling this stuff. That makes you wonder, Casper, about those 1,000 bottles of baby oil, right? Even if that is GHB, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this stuff, but you do it by the capful. It's not something that you do a shot glass of. It is a very, very small amount that you take in. And the jokes that were made about never running out of a bottle of baby oil, I don't know that you'd run out of a bottle of G that size either. That's a lot of GHB. It really is. That's a good size, especially if you consider that there's 1,000 bottles of that. Now, if they were in the act or they were in the business of moving that stuff, of selling that stuff, that would make an awful lot more sense. Jellycat says he must have a chemist. I believe wholeheartedly that this guy had some people working for him in that department. And one of the reasons that I believe that so strongly is I'm pretty familiar with GHB and its effects. I was part of the generation that was around and partying pretty hard when this stuff started to really get popular. GHB gets described more often than not like what we're hearing in the Alexander case. People that are unconscious, like they're so unconscious that they have no memory of the night before. And allegedly in all of those videos, they're having to move women's body parts so that they could have sex with them. They had to arrange these women in such positions that they could have sex with them. That's usually what you expect more with G, and it comes on very, very quickly. I believe, and maybe we'll find out that I'm an idiot, but I am of the belief that they were spiking this stuff, maybe putting a little X in there, right? Or a little bit of an amphetamine product of some kind. Ecstasy is almost all methamphetamine, right? It's methyl dioxymethamphetamine, but it's a load of meth. Most of it is a drug that takes you up. And it sounds, when you hear the people describing this in the Diddy case, they're not unconscious. They are awake and alive and very much aware of what is going on to them. They're just not able to do anything about it. And that to me sounds like a cocktail of sorts. I could be wrong, but that's what I think that we're going to find out. Do you think Diddy and the Alexanders shared a chemist? You know, Cooter by the Lake, you would normally say, yeah, probably. The reason that seems unlikely is because of how different the victims describe the onset of the substance and what it does to them. It seems to me like they had straight G, and that maybe Diddy was spiking it. Now, maybe Diddy was selling him G, and I'm not being funny, right? New York, right? They both hang out in the Hamptons. They both hang out down in sunny South Florida. So perhaps Diddy was the one supplying the Alexander brothers. Who knows? Maybe they had the same chemist. But it does sound, especially from this indictment, it sounds as if they think he's a drug dealer. Hold on one second. Can you speak to the, I think you mean arson part? From what I understand, that's a new arson charge. Still, I bet you he paid Clive to run away with the gas can, I'm sure. I think the only arson part that I saw in there, I think makes reference to what he did to Kid Cudi's car. If we're going to read this indictment, so we'll see if in fact that is the case. As we do read this indictment, this is legalese, so we're going to have to probably peel this apart after we read it. Do you have it in front of you, Casper? Or do you need me to do
I do. It's finishing printing off. I ran out of paper.
Well, I'll tell you what. I can fire this up, and maybe we'll because I did go over to Pacer and I did crank this thing out. So let's see what we got here. So I'm going to skip most of the beginning because all of these documents are stuff like, where they announce every one of this guy's aliases, which go on forever. The grand jury charges, overview, count 1, racketeering conspiracy for decades. Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. Love, a.k.a. P.D. The defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees' resources and influence of a multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Number 2, Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, all of those AKAs, the defendant operated his business, headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles, under a variety of U.S. states-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Entertainment, and Combs Global. Collectively, the Combs business. That's what they're going to be calling it from this point forward, the Combs business. Corporate entities in the Combs business included, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, alcoholic spirits business and marketing agency, and a television network multimedia company. Now, that would have been Revolt Media. And we know that the liquor, that was him working with Diageo. He did not own a liquor brand, but he was developing. He was in developments on 2 different liquors with the people at Diageo. One of those liquors was his vodka line, and there were about 14 or 15 flavors or something in it. He killed it with Ciroc. And then he was bringing on the De Leon brand when he ended up in a lawsuit. And there are people out there that allege that this is all stems from them being angry about that. By the way, all of these things he has divested himself out of. He no longer has anything to do with Revolt. He has basically lost all of these with the exception of the music catalog, which he owns. At the beginning of this trial, the beginning of this case, rather, I said that music catalog was worth an estimated $150 million. They're saying that's dropping like a stone. They're also saying a year ago it might have been worth about 5 times that. So this is absolutely hurting him, which is good, right? We want that to happen. When do you think we'll get names of people being charged as co-conspirators? Probably Monday after the 1st. That would be my guess. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, aka all those things, the defendant engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. This abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of the pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in orchestrated performance of sex activity with Combs and at times with Combs and male commercial, workers. At times, Combs and others acting at his direction made arrangements for women and commercial sex workers to fly to Combs's location. Combs ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers. Hear that? Controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. So, as we were talking about earlier on the other show that we were doing over there on Atwood, if somebody has the ability to turn off your income if you don't do what they want, that is coercion. You understand? One person who can say you're done getting paid, justices aren't paying you anymore. Now you got to go get a job. For people that have been doing this for 3 and 4 decades, what do you go do? He had so much power over these people. And I think that gets lost in the shuffle. And if all of that didn't work, then he would use intimidation and violence. Number 4, physical abuse by Sean Combs. All of the aliases. The defendant was recurrent and widely known. The physical abuse by Sean Combs was recurrent and widely known. On numerous occasions from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years, Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. Combs' violence was also not limited to these women. It extended to his employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. On one occasion, at a Los Angeles hotel in or about March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Subsequently, Combs, with the assistance of several close associates, paid the hotel security staff $100,000 for the hotel's surveillance footage of the assault. Now, we had heard he had offered 50 grand the night of. Apparently, they've got evidence now to allege that he paid $100K for this stuff, which is pretty disturbing. It really is. Sean Combs, number 5, AKA all of those nicknames. The defendant used Combs' business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his acts of violence, abuse, and commercial smecks. Those employees, including security, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, and all other close associates, acted as Combs' intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs business. Number 6, Combs Enterprise. From at least in or about 2004 through in or about 2024, Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, yada, yada, the defendant and others known and unknown were members and associates of a criminal organization, the Combs Enterprise, or Enterprise. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice, and a partridge in a pear tree. Number 7, the Combs Enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates, constituted an enterprise as defined by Title 18, USC Code 1961-4. That is, a group of individuals associated, in fact, although not a legal entity. The Combs Enterprise consisted of Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, the defendant, and entities within the Combs business, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprise, and Combs Global. Individuals employed by and associated with the Combs business, and others known and unknown. So what he's saying is there's going to be a lot of these employees that are going to get hemmed up in this. You heard the 4 different, so that his security staff is screwed. The people that were going in and doing the cleanup, all of these people. And when they mention the higher level stuff, we're talking about people like KK. Now, if you go back, as long as this is, there's going to be other women who did KK's job prior to KK being there. So we may end up seeing, what is that woman's name? The one who, she's named after one of the zodiac symbols. It's escaping me now, but it'll hit me in a minute. The Combs Enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs Enterprise. Combs Enterprise was engaged in and activities affected interstate and foreign commerce. The Combs Enterprise operated in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. Number 9, at times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, a.k.a. all those things, the defendant was the leader of Combs Enterprise. 10, Sean Combs, P. Diddy, all of those things, the defendant and others known and unknown participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs Enterprises affairs. These individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors. All of those 4 are going to be indicted, and we're going to hear about them when this stuff drops, probably on the 1st. The purpose of the was opening a global business in the media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including, among other things, record labels, recording studios, an apparel line, alcoholic spirits, marketing agency, and the television and network media company. They're just repeating themselves at this point viciously. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of Combs Enterprise, including the power of its leader, Combs, through violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, and verbal and emotional and physical abuse. Now, do you see why these firearms are going to end up being a big deal? Even if these firearms aren't being used right now in the superseding indictment, and I said the other day, for all we know, these things weren't found anywhere near Combs, and that actually makes a difference when you have a home that has 5 or 6 people living in it. You understand what I'm saying? For instance, in law, they'll say it was found in a common area. Like if they're searching a prison cell and they find something in Casper's rack, well, it belongs to Casper. If they find something in my locker, it belongs to me. If they find something in the trash can, that's a common area. And both of us are going to get charged. So these guns were found in a closet. We don't know who that closet belonged to. Could have been his kids. Right? Could have been people that he has staying there because the guy had like 27 bedrooms or some crap. There were a lot of people, right? Yeah, it took a while to record the indictment, to be sure. Fulfilling his personal desires, Combs participated, or particularly rather, those related to Combs' sexual gratification, including the exploitation of women and the use of commercial sex workers, enabling Combs and other members and associates of the Combs Enterprise to engage in unlawful acts of violence, including sexual violence, sexual trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics distribution, and other crimes, and the concealing of the commission of such acts. So he's saying that not only was Combs out there running and gunning and doing this, but he was slinging dope, right? Lots of it. And that all of the people who are associated with this enterprise took roles in covering this crap up. This isn't just that they're out there doing dirt. They're out there doing dirt and actively trying to cover all of this stuff up, which is why RICO is the perfect tool to take all of these people out. And I promise you, folks, just like I said, there are going to be more superseding indictments. Just like I said, trust me, they're going to arrest him. Trust me, there are going to be other people charged in this. But as of now, instead of having Cassie Ventura as the one and only victim in this, because that doesn't look right. If this is a group of people that have been doing this for 20 years, there can't be only one person that he did this to. They're going to be bringing 3 in. They never want to bring in a bunch. They always try to center in on 2 or 3 that they think they can put on the stand that are bulletproof. Because you could bring in 50 of them, but then they're just going to start poking holes and trying to make it look bad. They definitely have a plan. Protecting the Combs Enterprise and its members and associates, including Combs, from detection and prosecution by law enforcement authorities through acts of intimidation, manipulation, bribery, and threats of retaliation against individuals who witnessed the crimes committed by members and associates of the enterprise. Crimes committed by members and associates. There are other people that are involved in this that didn't work for him. These are the people that we're waiting to hear that are going to be coming out from the Busby lawsuits. Because absolutely, there were people involved in this that were associates that weren't there. They were people that hung out with him. We're not pointing any fingers. Ain't no party like a Diddy party.
It's going to get big, dude. I can't wait.
It is going to get big. It's going to blow up. This is absolutely going to blow up. Among other means and methods by which Sean Combs, the defendant, and other members of the associates of the Combs Enterprise conducted and participated in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs Enterprise, including the following. Combs and other members and associates of the enterprise wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role as Combs' business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims, including but not limited to 3 female victims, victim 1, victim 2, and victim 3, to engage in commercial sex acts. In connection with the commercial acts, Combs provided the victims with, among other things, monetary payments, career opportunities, and payment of rent and housing expenses. Sound familiar? It becomes human tea. It stops being prostitution when you don't have any other form of making money. Now you say, well, prostitutes always don't have any other form of making money. Nonsense. They could hire me. They could hire Casper. They could hire any other John walking down the street, right? Not the people in Sean Combs' orbit, because if they walk down the street with somebody else, he allegedly blew up their cars. Right. So monetary payments, career opportunities, and payment of rent and housing expenses, or holding that back, threatening that you're going to be homeless if you don't do exactly what I tell you you're going to do. Some of the commercial SMEX acts involved male commercial workers and were referred to by Combs as, among other things, freak-offs. Freak-offs were elaborate and promoted performances that Combs arranged, directed, and masturbated during, rubbing out a giggity, often electronically recorded. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of other members of the Associates of the Combs Enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial SMEX workers across state lines and internationally. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasting multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial workers. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant, sometimes unbeknownst to the victims. Combs also kept videos that he filmed of the victims engaging in these acts with commercial workers, again, unbeknownst to the people. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and chemical use. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees, facilitated the freak-offs by, among other things, booking the hotel rooms for the freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with required freak-off supplies, including the controlled substance, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and lighting, cleaning the hotel room after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage, arranging for travel for victims, commercial SMEX workers, and Combs to and from freak-offs, supplying Combs with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Combs to pay the commercial SMEX workers, and including the delivery of IV fluids. In or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Other commercial sex acts involved only Combs and a female victim. As with freak-offs, other members and associates of the Combs Enterprise assisted with arrangements for these commercial SMEX acts, including by arranging travel and accommodations for the victims. At times, Combs, with the assistance of other members and associates of the enterprise, transported and caused to be transported victims across state lines and internationally in connection with the commercial SMEX acts. Like the freak-offs, these commercial acts involved Combs and a female victim, and they were prearranged, sometimes lasting multiple days. Some were electronically recorded by Combs and often involved Combs distributing a variety of controlled substances to the victim, in part to keep the victim obedient and compliant, a recurring theme. Combs subjected victims to physically and emotionally and verbally abuse to cause the victim to engage in freak-offs and other commercial SMEX acts. Combs maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promises of career and financial opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with controlled substances. During and separate from freak-offs and other commercial sex acts, Combs, among other things, hit, kicked, and threw objects at and dragged victims at times by their hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or even weeks to heal following the assaults. It's important that they said that he gave these people chemicals not just while they were doing the freak-offs. Do you understand why that is important? Cassie Ventura claims that she got really strung out on this stuff. Like he was doing everything he could to keep her strung out. So allegedly, she was being given a lot of OxyContin, so probably Perk 30s, and that was on a daily basis. He was keeping her wasted so that you have control. If you're giving somebody a substance that they get sick if they don't have every 8 hours, the level of control that you have over that victim is Absolutely remarkable.
Typical pimp move.
Typical pimp move. It is absolutely typical chicken hawking, right? They go out,
Yep.
they find the girl, and they immediately try to get the girl to have a habit. While love bombing the crap out of her, giving her all kinds of jewelry. I believe he said to witnesses at the time he was going to get her the same way he did Kim by any means necessary. And of course, he did that. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Following the assaults, Combs, with the assistance of members, and associates of the enterprise, frequently worked to conceal his misconduct by offering to provide medical assistance or other financial benefits to the victims. Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted engaging in Smex acts with Combs, and at times with Combs and male commercial Smex workers. Victims believed they could not refuse Combs' demands without risking their financial or job security, or without repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. Combs also used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings that he made during freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence of the victims. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including Combs security personnel, at times carried firearms. On more than one occasion, Combs himself carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including victims of and witnesses to his abuse. In or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residence in Miami and Florida and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s with defaced serial numbers, as well as drum magazines. Now, those hold usually 50 to 100 rounds. They're not usually used for good things, right? It's like hunting deer with flak jackets on or some stuff. It doesn't seem like it's for normal kind of sport, so to speak. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise enabled Combs to control over the victims by following his directions regarding financial payments to victims, advancing or suppressing the victims' career opportunities, and acquiring the controlled substances Combs used to keep the victims compliant, getting them strung out. Members and associates of the Combs enterprises at times witnessed Combs' violence toward the victims or the victims' injuries caused by Combs without intervening. Instead, members and associates of the enterprise helped conceal the violence and abuse by, among other things, assisting Combs in monitoring and preventing victims from leaving locations such as hotels or Combs' residence. These occasions included instances in which victims were required to remain in hiding, sometimes for several days at a time. That, folks, is going to be kidnapping. If you tell somebody that they've got to stay in a room, you would not believe how tight the federal laws on this are. In fact, if you pull a phone cord out of the wall, you can be charged with kidnapping. If you move a person 12 inches against their will, get up, get on that couch. That's all it takes. You go over and close the blinds so that people can't see in. So this very well may be what they have listed down as the kidnapping charges. That seems to me to make sense. When employees witnessed the abuse or others threatened Combs' authority or reputation, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise engaged in acts of violence, threats of financial or reputational harm. That's huge. And reputational harm and verbal abuse. Keep in mind, he's got tapes of these people doing sexual things. Reputational damage. Hey, babe, how about if I put out a tape of you, getting 2 guys to do you, right? How would that do for your career? Right? Everybody going to think you're the sweet little thing. And this is the sick bastard that this dude is. I'm sorry. In addition, on multiple occasions, hold on, let me see. Associates of the enterprise pressured witnesses and victims, including through attempted bribery, to stay silent and not report what they had experienced or knew to law enforcement. On phone calls, Combs and other members and associates of the enterprise, among other things, provided these victims and witnesses with false narratives of events in an effort to conceal Combs' crimes. Combs caused these calls to be recorded on at least 2 occasions. Remember when you guys said, is he dumb enough to leave any of these things around? Where do you think this stuff all came from? The raids on his homes and all of that? He recorded this stuff. He recorded it. So they got it off of his devices. So knowing that these people, real good chance, knowing that they were going to come and arrest him, his hubris, right, his arrogance, he kept that stuff. What a jackwagon.
Stupid, man. I
Totally
mean, I'm
rookie.
glad though he's dumb. I'm glad he's
I'm
stupid.
glad he's stupid too, but I mean, you talk about a rookie move for just criminal. How dumb is that?
Yeah,
From at
you want to
least
you want to be upset with him about it, but then you're just like, wow.
so much of
Couldn't
this
have
is so stupid, but it's hubris. He's
Yeah.
so arrogant.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm ever going to get caught. I'm a billionaire. I'm this and that. From at least in or about 2004 through in or about 2024 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean Combs, the defendant, and others known and unknown, being persons and employees and associates with the enterprise, described in paragraph 6 through 12 of this indictment. An enterprise engaged in and activities of which affected interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed together with, boy, they covered all that, didn't they? With each other to violate racketeering laws of the United States, to wit, Title 18, the USC Code Section 1962C, that is, to conduct and participate directly and indirectly in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activities, as that term is defined in Title 18, United States Code Section 1961-1, 1961-5, consisting of A, multiple acts involving kidnapping, chargeable under the following provisions of the state law. California Penal Code 207, kidnapping, California Penal Code, blah, blah, blah. B, multiple acts involving arson. Multiple acts involving arson. Chargeable under the following provisions. Once again, California state laws. C, multiple acts involving bribery. Chargeable under the following provisions. You know what that bribery is going to be, don't you, cats and kittens? Huh? That's going to be Sean Puffy Combs on those pack numbers. That's what that's going to be, right? That's what is alleged. And my guy on the inside, if you remember, I got a phone call from a guy on the inside who said they're really going hard on the grand jury about the witness tampering. They had a lot of people that they were talking to who were coming out and saying, this cat called me and said, I'll give you this much money if you do this, or I'll give you this much money if you do that. We're going to be seeing a lot of evidence come out about him doing that. I'd be really surprised if we don't. Bribery, chargeable under all of the same things. And then D, multiple acts indictable under 18 USC Code 1512 relating to tampering with a witness, victim, or an informant. That's going to be a problem. It may sound like it's really insignificant when you think about everything else, right? But they're going to stack this fool. You understand? Because he's not taking a deal, they're not going to run all of these things concurrent. They're just very rarely done if you take it to the box. So if he's got 5 counts of this, they could give him 4 or 5 years of whack at every one of them. Now you're looking at 20 years for witness tampering, right? It starts to get a whole lot uglier. It's going to be really interesting to see how far they take this. And then E, multiple acts indictable under 18C related to forced labor. Multiple acts under 18 USC 1951 related to SMEX trafficking. Multiple acts indictable under 18 USC 2421, 2422. Relating to transportation and inducement to travel for the purposes of prostitution and or other illegal sexual activities. And multiple offenses involving the possession with intent to distribute or distribution of narcotics and controlled substances, including the Bolivian marching powder, oxycodone, Xanax, methyl dioxymethamphetamine, MDMA. That's ecstasy. 4-bromo 2.5 dimethyl phenylamine. That's going to be your pink blow, I think. That's the pink stuff. Gamma hydroxybutyric acid, ketamine, psilocybin, which is odd. And psilocybin comes from magic mushrooms, and methamphetamines in violation of Title 21. This is everything he's accused of selling, not possessing, right? This dude was slinging shrooms. Got a hard time believing that. You know, unless he was getting the stuff from doctors and he was getting like psilocybin pills, because they have those now. So maybe he was getting these through some kind of a dirty shrink.
They do have those. You can get it even in a vape form.
Yeah, a vape, a gummy, a chocolate bar. So maybe Puffy was slinging the fungus too. I don't know. It's really odd.
You probably just wanted to have a little bit of everything, just so when people come over, like whatever your pleasure is.
Yeah, well, and you know something? What Casper just said actually makes a crap load of sense. So let's say I'm like, if they had busted me a year and a half before they busted me the last time, and they had come in and gone into my safe, you could have found the kilo of tar. Now that kilo of tar was for me. Like I wasn't selling it. I was doing it, but I was making enough money where it didn't make sense for me to keep running out and getting it. So I just bought a huge ass block of it. And then along the way, somebody would say, hey man, give me an ounce of that. And I give you an ounce of some blow. So if you went in my safe, I would have had 6 or 7 controlled substances in there that were head stash, but they were probably all in a large enough quantity where they could have dinged me for possession with the intent to distribute. And that may be what we're looking at here. This may not be a case of him actually selling the stuff, because I don't think they got him in the act of selling any of this, right?
And he doesn't
so maybe
need to sell.
Maybe, yeah, and it doesn't make sense. It's like, but then again, Michael Vick didn't need to fight dogs. There's something sometimes about being from that kind of an environment where you could take the guy out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Puffy does come. Puffy's dad was a big time smack dealer, allegedly, right? Frank Lucas, all of those guys, right? He was working with some of the biggest names in the history of smack. So maybe this is just something that's kind of in the kid's blood, and I'm not being funny. I mean, he knows at this point, he didn't when he was a kid, but he knows who his dad is. It was part of it. It was a part of the conspiracy that Sean Combs, the defendant, agreed that a conspirator would commit at least 2 acts of racketeering activity in the conduct of the affairs of Combs' enterprise. I guess that's probably the actual legalese of what that requires. From at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018, Southern District of New York or elsewhere, as part of his agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, Sean Combs, the defendant, agreed to and affecting interstate and foreign commerce to recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, advertise, maintain, patronize, and solicit by any means a person knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threat, force, fraud, or coercion as described in Title 18, United States Code 1591E2, and any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in a commercial SMEX act in violation of 18, right? So that, folks, was count 1 of this indictment. That's count 1. That is count 1 of the indictment. On the bright side, count 2 and 3 are very, very short and will only take us a couple of seconds. So, but pretty crazy. Not count 2, SMEX trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. Grand jury further charges that he did this. Now, count 3, literally, that's it. All it says is that he and 2 other people conspired to do just that. Count 3, transportation to engage in prostitution. From 2009 through 2024, Southern District of New York, the defendant knowingly transported individuals in interstate and foreign commerce with the intent that the individual engaged in prostitution and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same, to wit, Combs transported, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the transportation of female victims, included but not limited to victim 1, 2, and 3, and commercial SMEX workers in interstate and foreign commerce on multiple occasions with the intent that they engage in prostitution. You know, a lot has been made about the defense bringing in, they're going to bring in these SMEX workers who are going to not want to say, yeah, I was breaking the law, right? They're going to want to go in there and say, hey, it was consensual. Of course it was consensual. And yeah, they paid for my transportation, but we're swingers. This wasn't really a tit for tat. He wasn't paying me for that. He was just picking up but all it takes is one of these workers. If one of these workers breaks rank and goes in the other direction, then Diddy's done. And I mean, really done. I think they could probably convict him without that. But if one of these male SMEX workers says, yeah, there was a lot of chemicals there, man. Like it might have been consensual, but there was a lot of dope being applied around that. Because if you're being coerced with a substance, then it is not consensual. If you are being threatened with your job, it is not consensual. Do you understand? And I can keep doing this forever. If the place that you live, he's going to pull the plug on, if he's going to turn off your credit cards, if he's going to tell you that you're never going to work in the industry again, none of these things amount to consent. Forfeiture allegations. As a result of committing the offense alleged in count 1 of the indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, shall forfeit to the United States pursuant to Title 18 U.S.C. Code 1963 any and all interests the defendant acquired or maintained in violation of Title 18 United States Code 1962. Any and all interests in securities of, claims against, and property or contractual rights of any kind affording a source of influence over the enterprise named and described herein, which the defendant established, operated, controlled, conducted, and participated in the conduct of in violation of Title 18, United States Code 1962, and any and all property constituting and derived from proceeds obtained directly and indirectly from said offenses, including but not limited to a sum of money in the United States currency representing the amount of proceeds traceable to the commission of said offense. God help us. As a result of, go ahead.
Do you know how many FBI lawyers are on this case, dude?
Forensic guys.
And they're going to try to take as much as they can.
They're going to say, first of all, people, from Howard University on, this enterprise was starting to build. Now, granted, I mean, you know, they're saying going all the way back to 2000 to 2004. But know this, that as we get closer, that number's going to move again. Do you remember me sitting here and telling all of you that Rico's got a really weird way of moving the dates of when stuff happened? Because we thought this was one date up until today. Now we've moved it back even further. Now we're talking about 24 years of this or something, right? They can then go from there. The statutes of limitations is on like this moving. Yeah, you know, it's like the parameters move along with the crime. It's going to be a very fascinating case. From a legal nerd standpoint, this is really going to be a hoot. As a result of committing the offenses alleged in count 3 of the indictment, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, the defendant, shall forfeit to the United States pursuant to U.S. Code section all property. Anything derived from proceeds, directly, indirectly, blah, 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 real estate, blah, blah, blah. If any of the above described forfeitable property as a result of any act or omission of the defendant, it's the substitute asset provision. If any of the above described forfeitable property as a result of any act of omission of the defendant cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, has been transferred or sold or deposited with a third person, his mom, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, offshore accounts, has been substantially diminished in value, like his music catalog, or has been commingled with other property which cannot be subdivided without difficulty. It is in the intent of the United States pursuant to Title 18, United States Code Section 1963M, and a couple of others, to seek forfeiture of any other property of the defendant up to the value of the above forfeitable property. So if he did something, they can steal property that has nothing to do with this if it happens to equal something else. Boy, this is ugly. This isn't a good day for Sean Combs. So who gets the money first? The feds.
Yeah, and it makes more sense to me why they would try to get him with an intent to distribute, charged, and to take it as far back as they can, so they can, you know what I mean? Because he can prove sales from his clothing line and sales from records, but still, I don't think it really matters if you've been.
First of all, the glasses, the clothing line, the perfume, they're going to say that none of that exists without the enterprise. So virtually everything that the enterprise is, according to how they listed it, that's going to be Combs Entertainment, that's going to be Bad Boy, and that's going to be Combs Global. Those are all his companies. So they're not saying that there's an entity out there that's protected. Everything this cat did or has done, according to the government, is part of this enterprise, which means every penny he made, right? That the only way that they're going to get away with that is if the statutes, the dates. So right now we got it back to 04, right? That may move. But if it doesn't, what they may say is anything that was generated before '04 they wouldn't be able to go after. But if that's the case, what they would do instead is say, well, anything we can't find from here, we'll go after that. That's the substitute clause there at the end. They really have made this so that, if you're trying to hide this stuff, then we're just going to take everything that you do have and say, well, you bought this in 1990, but since we can't find a crap from 2006, we're just going to keep that. And this stuff that you bought in 1998, since we can't find the stuff from 2021, we're just going to keep that. I don't see how Diddy can possibly come out of this until there's no way he gets out of this with money. He's going to end up broke, not to mention how much he's going to be spending on his legal fees. They are not giving Diddy all of their cards until the very last minute, up to 2 weeks before the trial. I agree with you. Now, if what they're holding close to their chest was a superseding indictment of somebody under the age of 18, that's going to move Cinco de Mayo. We're not going to court. I promise.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's going to be a whole new set of discovery. As it is, the discovery for this was already handed over. Victim 1, victim 2, and victim 3, that had to already been in there because this has already been stated that they don't think this is going to hold up the Cinco de Mayo date. They think we're going to be fine for May 5th. Now, if you extrapolate, right, you do any kind of logical thinking, that means they already had it. Because if they had not turned over the discovery had to be turned over on December 31st. If victim 1, 2, and 3 weren't in there, then they'd be pushing the court date out. They'd have to, because there would be discovery that they hadn't got yet. You understand what I'm saying? So that's obviously not the case. Can they claw back the monies paid to Cassie at all? No, they cannot. Cassie's money is Cassie's money. That settlement is done, dead, and buried. The alleged $35 million belongs to Cassie Ventura, and that is all her. Okay. How about what he put in someone else's name? Now, the beautiful thing about this is, so let's say, according to what they just said here at the end of this, let's say it's Sean Combs puts his house into his mother's name. If they can't get that out of his mother, now I think they'll end up just naming his mother as I think they're going to go after his mom. I think she'll end up being an accomplice. I don't think that they're going to allow that woman to hide cash. But let's just say they did allow her to hide it.
With lesser people than him.
Right. Then when they say $60 million house that's in mom's name. Now, we can't go after that $60 million house because it's been put outside the reach of the government. The government's going to go in and go, we'll take your music catalog. It's worth $150 million. So we owe you back, 60, something like that. But I bet you they find something else to do with that 60. There are going to be assets that Sean Combs has. He's not going to be able to hide, like his music catalog, right? That's not going anywhere. You can't make it go away. And that's a lot of cash right there. Where that money goes, I hope that they would some stuff up for victims. And I think that that's probably realistic. How much everyone would get there, there's no way to tell. But the government is not known for being benevolent. The government wants theirs. This is a crime, right? A series of crimes against the United States of America, because that's how they view this. Now, I realize that there are victims in there, but the crime is the United States of America against Sean Combs, and they will absolutely take that money as if it's theirs. Hasn't that always been your experience?
Yes.
I've never seen them give anything back to anybody. They just seize the assets, and then they sell the crap off at government auctions.
Yeah, and then they tell the victims to hit them civilly, but there's nothing left to.
Yeah, exactly. Have we figured out if she is his mom? Yes, she is definitely his mother. She is not his aunt. I'm not exactly sure how that rumor caught the legs that it did, but apparently there is no doubt whatsoever that Janice Combs is his mother. She was married to the father. There are enough witnesses from early on that can back that up. Yes, Cassie absolutely got the settlement money. Allegedly, she got it within 24 hours of filing. So, in answer to your question, she has absolutely been paid. What we don't know is the exact dollar amount. But it's either 30 million allegedly or 35 million allegedly, depending on who you believe. But no other number ever comes out. It's always either 30 or 35. I'd like to believe 35. It makes me feel better. But who knows? Anything related to fruit from the poisonous tree? Yeah, that was yesterday. Yes, you're talking about the stuff that they found in court. I mean, in his in the search of MDC Brooklyn, none of that's getting thrown out. None of that's getting thrown out. All of that was BS, people. They have to file to try to get that suppressed. They have to file to try to get the Cassie Ventura tape thrown out. These things are pro forma. I've told the story on here before, but I did an interview with the FBI about bank robbery. And when they came in, I said to them, "What the hell are you guys doing here without my attorney? Like, I'm not supposed to meet with you guys without my attorney. I want to talk to my attorney." They continued to ask me questions after I said that. And I talked to them for about an hour and 20 minutes. But I didn't tell them anything. I mean, in all honesty, they didn't even really ask me anything. It was sort of just a conversation because I had said I wanted an attorney. So they weren't asking questions. We were just sort of talking about life, football team, stupid stuff. My attorney at the time was a woman I was engaged to be married to. And she said to me, "We're going to court on Tuesday, blah, blah, blah. We're filing to get that. We wanted that entire interrogation thrown out." And I said to her, "What did I say in there that's going to get me in trouble?" She said, "Nothing." They didn't even ask any questions. But she wanted the court to know they were going to fight every single thing down the way. And when you have a good defense team, they're going to fight everything that they can possibly fight. You know, there's no chance that they're not going to take a shot at, and including the ridiculous filings of, "Well, throw it out. This should already be thrown out." They probably filed 2 or 3 of those already, and they're going to keep doing it. It also gives them an opportunity to bill this chump at about $750 an hour. Right? And they're going to bill him for every single thing they can. So as far as the fruit, the term fruit from a poisonous tree means that if you don't have a good search and seizure, right? If you don't have a good search warrant when you go in, then anything that results from that is thrown out. It's all fruit from a poisonous tree. But that is not going to be the case in this. You got nothing to worry about on that. I promise you. Yeah, well, that's a nice way of putting it. Says Sassy's dad, Mike and Conroe. They've got him by the onions, and they're definitely giving it a squeeze. What do you think that the drug dealing comes down to the fact that the weight was just too much for it to be possession?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he ever sold one of those.
It doesn't sound like it makes sense, but
yeah,
you never know
anything really, because first of all, I don't think he's dealing with anyone that he would sell to. And if it was a friend, he would just give it to him because it's
right. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either that the guy would be selling drugs. However, there's so much that Sean Combs does that doesn't make sense. And I am always a little bit sketchy. And I'll tell you why. This is going to sound, whatever. But you're getting a lot of guys to bring into this industry who were doing what 7 days earlier, right? The vast majority of guys that start spitting rhymes in this hip hop game are rapping about slinging rocks on the corner, right? They were selling crack, or they were moving this, or they were moving whatever. And that's very much a part of the early days, especially of hip hop. They rapped about slinging dope. Now you've got access to private jets and you're not walking through security. I would imagine that there's probably a little bit of temptation to toss a couple of keys onto the plane, because we live in a very unusual country. Like if you buy a kilo in Texas and you bring it to Boston, it's worth 3 times as much money as it was in Texas. So I think that there's a possibility that they could be doing stupid stuff like that, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Little Rod's gonna be through this entire suit, folks. He is not one of the 3 victims, because all 3 of those victims are female. But a lot of Little Rod's lawsuit is coming into this, because when he handed it over, just like the Cassie lawsuit, it didn't look like your normal lawsuit. It looked like a prosecution team had put together a case. There were video, there was audio, there were all of these things, and it was just sort of gift wrapped. And if you don't believe that, Little Rod filed And then they pulled it back almost immediately. And then like a week later or 2 weeks later, I can't remember what the elapsed time was, but they then went and refiled. And when they did, it was put into a kind of a different format, much more like what Cassie Ventura had done. Could you see any way that he could be wanting? Oh, money laundering is a part of any of this. And eventually that will be charged, but they usually bring that almost always like as an afterthought. But there's going to be money laundering in this. There's going to be a ton of it. I guarantee you they were hiding massive amounts of money. That's always a thing. When do you think the minor victims will be charged or mentioned? I think, Dawn, that we're in such a strange case right now that I think we could see this thing go all the way to fruition and then them hit him with other things. It's almost like having an insurance policy, right? You charge, and if by some chance this fool ends up beating the charges, then you have the ability to take a run at him for a lot of other things. This is not the only thing they had. There are as many other things that they could be charging him with for the superseding indictment. I promise you. Shadow Woman, thank you so much. The dealing might be because he is buying in large amounts. I agree with that. See, that's kind of what I was saying. But it doesn't, maybe it's just how it's being, normally, possession with the intent to distribute, it doesn't necessarily mean you're actually intending to distribute. If you get caught with a pound, they're going to charge you with possession with the intent. That doesn't necessarily mean you were intending to do that, but that's just how it works. Does distribution always equal selling in casual parlance? He allegedly distributed or gave out plenty of stuff to party goers. No, if they, as far as distribution, I believe that they require that cash comes back. I don't believe that they would be talking about giving it away, but I don't know. Essentially a plan B. I do think that they're playing chess with this. Probably because of the amount of money that Sean Combs has. I think that they are keeping the powder dry. I'm a little surprised that we didn't see an underage person in the superseding indictment. But
I was too.
Yeah, but I think that this goes along with what we had been talking about earlier in the week, which is they're liking this May 5th right now. The prosecution, like the tables have turned. Now the defense, who wanted this fast case and was pushing and pushing and pushing, now has all of this stuff dumped on them for the discovery. By the way, they're also not letting Sean Combs get that video. Remember, he wanted the access to the freak off tapes. He wanted to be able to have them on his computer and look at them and go through them and relive all of his glory days like the scumbag that he is. The judge said, "Yeah, miss me with that crap." I think that was a quote. Yeah. The judge said, "You know what? We gave you about 9 ways you can view that. If that's not good enough for you, sorry about your luck." And that's legit. I'm sorry, it is. You have to make arrangements. If a case is way bigger than other cases, you have to make arrangements so that the defendant has a chance to defend themselves. That means giving the cat a laptop is legit. It's not a laptop like you think. It's an iPad with a hell of a lot more memory and a keypad, but it doesn't surf the internet. It can't Google anything. It doesn't have a modem. It is very much designed for exactly what they're using it for. So he doesn't have a laptop. He has a laptop. And it happens a lot. This is not rare. It's not unique. But to say, yeah, we're going to give you porn. I mean, no matter what you look at, that's what it is. It's 2 people having sex on film or 3 people having sex on film. You can't, there's no way you could put that in the hands of an inmate. Duh. It's stupid. So basically what's going to happen is they will come out with everything they have at the end of April with everything and catch Diddy off guard. I think that that's probably the case. They've given him everything already. Do you remember me telling you in the very beginning, when the government gives you discovery, when I got my discovery, the timesheets for the agents that worked the case were in there. How much overtime they did, all this crap. Their expenditures for where they went to lunch, stuff that made so little sense. They had the criminal history of all of the people that were involved in this case, even though they weren't co-defendants. They had nothing to do with me. They were people I bought something from or somebody I sold something to, but they put all of their criminal histories into my discovery. So there was so much in there that had nothing to do with anything that you're spending all this time going through it, and they don't give it to you in any kind of order. It's like they shuffle the pages so that nothing, it's very, very confusing. And they will give you a witness list of 70 witnesses. You realize how many people allegedly the grand jury talked to, what, 300? We got 3 names.
Yeah.
How seriously tough do you think those 3 women are? Because the federal government, after looking at all of the different accusations, there have been 35 civil cases filed. I promise you, the government looked at every single one of those with a fine-tooth comb. They're looking at all of them because they're going to march into court with 3 people that the defense is going to have a struggle trying to shoot holes in. It's the mindset obviously is the smallest number that you can have without making it look silly, because we know that allegedly there might be 1,000 victims, but you can't bring 1,000 victims in. Even when you look at the Larry Nassar case, it was fascinating because there were more victims in that than any other case you'd ever come across, like 1,000 victims or something. But they didn't parade all of those women in there for the trial. They gave every damn one of them a chance to come in and make an impact statement. And I think that we will probably see a lot of that if Sean Combs is found guilty. I think we will end up seeing a lot of these people that did not testify in this, who will come forward and talk about what this did to them. But the government is going to do everything they can to make sure that this is pared down. This is a good call. I've been working this guy like a,
Thank you. I am super tired. I got 2 hours sleep last night. I'm sorry, man.
No, well, you look, you got 2 hours of sleep because of me. You I don't think you can be sorry. I don't think you can be sorry.
My last tattoo yesterday, I drank the big 24-ounce Red Bull, sugar-free Red Bull.
Yep.
I did that and then took my meds like at 9 o'clock. And when I take my meds, it gives me energy. And of course, Red Bulls do it. So
yeah, you drink sugar-free Red Bull?
Yeah, those are the best.
I don't know anybody that drinks sugar-free Red Bull.
Oh, they're the best. There's no crash. There's no crash.
Well, no, I guess that probably would make sense. Morocco brown hash. The drummer would love it. Listen, you guys, there you go. A little Morocco brown, bubblegum brown. I used to call that stuff. What's good, Tommy and Casper? Noah, well, this Diddy fella got a what they called a superseding indictment. Truth is, what they did was tighten up the indictment, and they let the world know that we're going to be seeing 3 women who are going to be the heroes in this. Oh, no, not with the drumstick again. Poor Casper is seriously going to poke his eye out.
I know. Did you see that? I know. I went like this. I was like, oh, man.
All right, that's it. You're cut off. You are cut off. And you know what? With that,
I'm good.
I will. Yeah, with that, if you want to go to sleep, I will let you, and I'll just finish this up. I'm to the end of it anyway. But and
maybe I should.
Get some sleep, man. I know the boss. He's not going to give you.
And I'm
crap.
not contributing anything tonight. I'm just my bad, man.
Well, no, don't say that. Don't be stupid. Come on, now. You're better than that. You're better. We're better than that. We're better.
But I love
you guys. Know what's been happening? I'll just be really honest, folks. This guy's been working around the clock between the stuff we're doing with the Jesters and the stuff we're doing with Diddy. We also, what's going on February 1st?
Yeah.
Starting February 1st.
After the bars.
That's right. After the bars morning show. It'll be on at 9 o'clock in the.
Yeah, I worked on that real late last night. Really late.
And it's really coming together. If you guys have not stopped by and see that, it's called After the Bars. You should go over and hit subscribe, folks, because on the first day of February, we will be firing it up for a morning show.
I'm telling you guys, it's going to be so much fun. Look, I'm like wide awake now talking about it. Like,
we're going to get to let our hair down a little bit. You know what I mean? I tend to do things in a very specific way here for a lot of reasons. But we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing it over there.
Morning show, like like Mark and Brian. I don't know if you guys remember those guys. I'm sure there's a famous New York morning duo. Yeah, we're gonna have fun, man. It's gonna be so much fun. I promise you guys. You guys are gonna love it.
Look at that, 59 subscriber, and they said it wouldn't take off.
I know.
Okay, good for you. Get that head change in. 15 subscribers says SMG Infinity. Well, I'll tell you what, folks. I think you're really going to enjoy that, honestly. So, just to rehash, if you're just getting here, all right, Casper, go to sleep. I will talk to you in the morning.
All right, I love you guys.
I'll be working you like a slave tomorrow, so you may as well get back to sleep. Love you, brother.
Yes. All right, love you too, man.
Give your girl my best.
I will. All right, thank you.
That man's a stud, and I really have been working the guy. Don Imus was great in his day. He really was, until he screwed up like so many other people do. But so just to recap, we did not see any new crime, right? There's no new charges for Sean Puffy Combs. However, they sure as hell have tightened up the ones that he has. And they've talked a lot about forfeiture. That is something that comes up a lot. Everybody asks me about. Yeah, he's trying to hide his money. Right? We knew he was going to try to hide his money. That's a reality. It's just the way it is, right? Jennifer loves sugar-free Red Bull. I don't believe you. I'm sorry. I tasted it once. You know what sugar-free Red Bull tastes like? It tastes like what orange juice is like after you brush your teeth. It tastes like you brushed your teeth and had a little orange juice. Red Bull tastes like cancer. Fancy Face, tell us what you really think. The regular stuff I love. I really do. I was always a big fan. Bieber separated from Haley, and is that true? And she moved back to Daddy's house with Steve Baldwin. Christy Wolf, I did not know that. I had no idea that they had separated. Holtz, I love that. Thank you so much. And we're going to keep pumping it out. Today was over on the Sean Atwood program. If you have not gone over and seen that, we did a Royal Order of Jesters show over there, and we felt the need to tell everybody where we're at in terms of the documentary and all of that. Because, folks, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. A lot of people have been taking shots at us. There's a lot of people that are putting up a lot of hate about myself, about my fiance, my brother's getting jagged into it, everybody. And the funny thing is, one of these geniuses literally came out and said on a video, I got money from so-and-so to do this. Like, said it out loud. So jesters are literally supplying cash to trolls to try to hurt my channel and to try to hurt the channel of my fiance. If you have not hit subscribe, do so. It will help. We took a hit. It's about 400 or 500 subscribers. And, you know, when you're up around 30,000, 28,000, 500 subscribers isn't going to kill you. But what's sad is 500 people who just got lied to, right? 500 people who left because the enemy is doing a decent job of what they're doing. I'm glad that the 647 of you here aren't, what's the word I'm looking for? Aren't easily led. Because to be honest, I've talked about this briefly on here before, but there are people out there trashing me, saying, very specifically tying me to the Diddy thing, because I am accused of bringing G into the United States once a week through Mexico up my bum. I don't know where you get G in Mexico because it's not really that kind of a substance, but hey, right? It's their lie. They can tell it. And the source that was cited for that was Reddit. And I know most of you don't believe the crap, and I don't talk about it here much, but I'm saying it because everybody reaches out and they all send emails and they say, what can I do? You can share the videos that we do, especially when it's about the pricks that are trying to hurt us. So if we're talking about the jesters, share that stuff out for real. You know, the Diddy stuff doesn't take much. It really doesn't. And I'm not trying to sound cool, but when Diddy mentions, lawsuit, if I come out and I talk about this stuff, I'm going to get views. And that's a beautiful thing. I love that. I really do. But it's not the most important story I'm working on. That's a great question. Did they make me do the bend over? Make no mistake, pay me and I'll unsub. Thank you. Appreciate that. Keep coming back and watching them. the almost a month sober. That's what I'm talking about right there, man. More important than anything else we talked about today with Diddy or with anything else. Brandon Calloway, God bless you, my brother. He's been fighting the good fight for a very long time, and we've been with him. I am so proud of you, man. I really am. That's the way it's supposed to be. Let's see here. Damn, I had it, and then it disappeared on me again. Tommy, my dad taught me to question everything. He taught me to even question what he told me. He wanted me to be a free thinker. I love that. One tough chick. I love that. And I hope everybody is. But there's a big difference between listening and thinking. Right? And I'm not saying that you're not thinking, one tough chick. I know you are. But there's a lot of people out there that are just listening. We're going to catch so much more flack because we're going to keep going after people who use power and influence to hurt those they can. We're going to continue to go after people who, because they have cash, think it's okay to sodomize a 9-year-old for giggles just quickly before your white party, right? Or you and your male friends can go out and recruit girls at Hooters, right? Try to find one that's recently divorced. Can't really afford to take care of her kids. They'll be perfect for the realm. We're going to keep crapping on those people. I saw what they do to individuals. These aren't theories. I watched what happened to my fiance. I watched how these guys do what they do. And then I went in and I moved among them. And you know what? They're weasels and cowards. Honestly, got a chance to meet them. You know, when they showed up to run us out that day, there were 5 of them and 1 of me. I'll tell you something. If it's 5 of me and 1 of you, I'm going to make your day really uncomfortable. Those guys stayed away like they were afraid I was going to hurt them. They're cowards. They're tough as hell when there are women around, though, right? They're really good at exerting their will on people that they can take advantage of because they're bigger or because they've got more cash. This is the year that all of this crap comes to a stop. And I want to tell you something. If I lose 6,000 subs, I'm going to keep doing this. That's it. They're not going to intimidate any of us into stop doing what we're doing. You hear me? We're not going to stop. In fact, we're assembling a better team. We're putting more time in. We're getting better equipment. This is the year that the people who abuse women for sport, this is the year they retire. If this is what you do, this is the year you retire. And I got news for you. If you wear purple and you're the guys out having fun and all of that, what you did, they're felonies. This case that I just read, it reads just like yours. So if you guys think that you're going to go out and continue to do the stuff that you're doing, it's called human tea. It's not called a luxurious lifestyle. You're recruiting people to take across state lines for sex. And if those people don't do as they're told, you shut off their employment. You shut off their rent. That's illegal. That's illegal. So you tripped out about your hat? You got bigger things to worry about. Honestly, that screams Rico, people. It really does. It screams Rico. Christy Wolf says, well, according to Usher, he didn't have a choice. Diddy wanted Bieber, so he went and got him. Bieber, Diddy had sex a while. You know, this has been alleged, and it's been alleged. It's hard for me because one of the biggest places to allege that there was a relationship between Diddy and Bieber that was sexual, right? The biggest leak of that information, I'm not sure we can trust, right? Because really, the person that says, I've seen it, it happened, was Courtney Burgess. I don't know of anybody else other than Kim's last words. I don't know of anybody else that says it's a fact that happened. Justin Bieber unfollowed Usher and 5 other really big name people from the industry, but he didn't unfollow Diddy. And you can guess at that because that's all any of us can do. But I feel like a logical guess is maybe Diddy didn't do that to him. Maybe Usher did. Or maybe he thinks that he's a victim of Diddy, but because of Usher. But why not unfollow Diddy? I think that is so weird. Yeah. RICO jesters. Oh, I'm telling you, folks. If you've ever seen anything that's screaming for a RICO case, 190 courts, they're all doing the same thing, right? They're all doing the same thing. You can charge every one of them. Those girls you're buying those tickets for, that's illegal. Those phones given to people entering the country incorrectly are walking trackers. 30,000 children found so far during the second week of Donald Trump's presidency. I also read that they had located 30,000 kids. I really hope that that's the truth. It's a start. It's a start. And I'm hoping that they all don't catch wind of that and start throwing their phones, because I'd sure like to find the remaining 300,000 or whatever that are still out there. But you know something? If those kids are going to be found, it's going to help that the people in office are actually trying to do something about it, right? But regardless, if we're going to make changes in 2025, Donald Trump isn't going to be the person to do it. Sorry. But if changes happen in 2025, it's going to be the 640 of you that are listening to me right now and people like you. It's going to be those of us that say, not on my watch. This shit ends in 2025. We've been allowing this to go on since Hollywood started. You know what? I ain't spent $1 on entertainment since this started. I'm not joking you. I don't spend $1 on entertainment. They will never get another dollar of mine, so that they can shove eggs up the backsides of people that are trying to just make music, or people who just want to create their craft. Imagine just wanting to be a dancer or an actor and finding out that you got to get sodomized as part of the ritual. What? You don't want to be a star? 2025, peeps. What can we do to help? Seriously, you can share videos. Anytime we talk about people victimizing someone, share the video. Share it to everybody you know. If you haven't hit subscribe to the people that are fighting the good fight, hit subscribe to them. Right? Those are really, really good things that you can do. You can also rewatch videos. Put volume up. Right? People that are doing good work, watch their stuff 3 times. Fall asleep to it. Put on one of their playlists. Help their views. It's how these people get paid. So if there are people out there fighting the good fight, do everything you can to help them. And your views, you're paying people. This is why I got an email from someone that loves me. They really do. I know they do. And they sent me an email and they said, I just want you to know I've been watching one of these losers that make stuff about you because I feel like I should have your back. I appreciate that. I really do. You guys are great. Unfortunately, if 1,000 people have that idea, then that person gets 1,000 views. And for those idiots, 1,000 views is all they're ever going to get, right? That's a massive 2,000 views. They've never seen anything like that. And they'll just continue to do it. You vote with your views. Give them to people that are fighting the good fight. Don't waste your time giving views to people if they're moving you closer to hate. It's your gig. Do whatever you want. But if you seriously ask me what you can do, don't move toward hate. Don't move toward hate. There's a lot of it going around, man. Don't move toward hate. You could also super chat. Thank you, Taylor Miller. Does every Mason chapter also have Shriners and Jesters groups? Shriners and Jesters only occur inside the United States. That doesn't happen outside the U.S. except Canada, but it doesn't happen in Europe. And no, not every Masons chapter has a chapter of the Jesters. And if they do, they may not all be aware of it anyway, because they're doing everything they can to kind of. You're right. There is nothing new under the sun except the fight. Because I'll tell you something right now. I'm 54 years old, and I've never heard anybody talk about Hollywood like this. I've never heard anybody say this has to stop. The casting couch has been joked about since Shirley Temple's days. And we've all just sort of been a part of it. We've all just sort of allowed it to go on. What's new is we have the ability now for anybody with a voice to do something about it, right? Over 600 people show up here and listen. That's doing something about it, honestly. The fact that you're engaged, talk to people. When someone says, oh, I was watching the Grammys, say to them, are you kidding? I don't support that garbage. Why are you doing that? Do you believe it? You think the Grammys are real? You think that the two most talented musicians in history are Beyonce Knowles and her husband? Miss me with that crap. It's rigged. And if you don't see that, I'm sorry, you're ignorant. It's rigged. Don't play the game anymore. Don't. There's enough free entertainment out there. There's enough old movies out there. You never have to put another dollar into that machine who has nothing but contempt for you anyway. They hate you. Make no mistake. They don't like the audience. Hollywood's disgusting, folks. And you know something? We can do something about it. We can do something about it. All those crazy parties, they party on your $20 bill and on my $20 bill and on their $20 bill and on his $50. All the money we spend in movies, all the monies we spent renting this shit and all of that stuff. You know what? Miss me with it. Let it go away, man. Thank you, Sammy Sue. That's a beautiful thing to say, man. Hollywood still think they are relevant. They are not. Booyah. No, they are not. And you know what? They're dropping like a value jet. Every single year, their revenue is going down. That's for the last decade. And that's without our help. This year, we're going to show them what sucking at the box office looks like, right? Raise your right hand. I will not go to a box office. I will not go to a movie this year, right? I'm not putting any money into the coffers of these people. Just not doing it. Just not doing it. Hollywood is dying, just like Blockbuster, the VHS, and the cassette tape. You forgot to mention the Betamax. But who doesn't still have a Betamax? I saw Hollywood consumption cold in 2020. I love it because of child harm. So it was a good time to do it. A great time to do it. DC Design says, I don't watch any of that crap. I got better stuff to do. I love that. I love that. Me too. Me too. I don't watch the television set ever. I watch documentaries. That's the only thing I watch. People, there's going to be a lot more news coming out about this. Right? Going to be a lot more coming out about this. And I promise you, I'm going to go through this thing in a much different way. And we will talk about this again. It's going to be a little bit more in-depth. But keep coming back because it's about to get ugly, folks. Tomorrow is the last day of January. And February 1st, everything is going to change. We're going to know a lot more names. We're going to know all kinds of stuff. I have strictly become a YouTuber. Well, yes, sir. Me too. This is my television. This is my movie. This is my everything. I watch my documentaries here. I love the big red button. I really do. Even the Ramoras, even those lowlives that are out there just feeding off of what falls out the gills of the boat. They're a part of it. And you know why they're doing well? Because we're doing well. They're going to take a shot because what we're doing is threatening institutions that don't get threatened. Stick around, folks. This is going to get fun. I promise. I am the Admiral. Between now and the next time I see you, reach out and try to save somebody, all right? You guys rock. I mean that. Have a great night. Bye-bye.